Hello, everyone. This is Linda Nelson, and we're going to be having another class today about unlocking your gifts and abilities. And I'm coming to you from Oahu in Hawaii, and I've had a great trip. It's been very interesting. My intention as I came today for this trip was actually to work with deceased spirits, and I wanted to have an experience that was spiritual while I was here. I've come to Hawaii numerous times, and a lot of those times have been regarding working with energy. And we'll get into a class on energy in the future. But I'm excited about today because we're going to be talking about clairaudience. And we talked about it just a little bit the last class, and I told you, how to feel in your body, what that feels like when you're listening for truth. And truth is very light and uplifting, where if it's not truth, it feels very heavy in the body. And until you can master that, it's kind of hard to be able to know what you're receiving is true and who it's coming from, because it can come from many sources. It can come from the God of your choice. It can come from ancestors. It can come from masters like Jesus or Buddha or the angels. It can come from many sources, but you want to call them in and not just put out there that whoever shows up is going to give you information that is going to be true, because a lot of times those spirits do not have the wisdom that you're hoping that they'll have. So make sure you call in who you trust. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today, is about our hearing. Clear audience is clear hearing. So when I first started listening to spirit, I was very young. I was about 10 years old, and the first time I was with my family, headed to a picnic in Idaho to the City of Rocks, and our caravan of vehicles had stopped at a small hill to have the kids climb this little mountain. And so everybody jumped up and ran, and I thought that I was able to, as a little girl, be able to climb this hill, because I knew that I was strong. And so all the way up, I kept hearing, you need to go back, you need to go back, you need to go back. And I was never told why I needed to go back. And I just kept arguing that I knew I could make it all the way up. So I climbed all the way up, and lo and behold, as I got up there, I saw the caravan of cars leaving the mountain, and I realized that I had been given a message and I just didn't listen. And it made a big impact on my life. And I knew that I should have been listening. And so I did try to pay attention in the future from then, but I didn't really hone that skill. And if you don't hone it and pay attention to it, you kind of lose it. It's kind of like a muscle. And so really, I just wasn't paying attention. And I think that if you want to live a life of intention, to be guided to wherever your purpose may take you, and sometimes our purpose takes us to a job that we love and that we're supposed to work in, and sometimes that purpose is actually a hobby. So listen to wherever you're led. Now, sometimes when you're being led, it's kind of deceiving in the sense that you're given messages in many different ways. Sometimes that message can be given to you with hearing, if that's your strength. Sometimes it can be given to you in a dream, if clairvoyance is your strength. Sometimes it can be given to you after you've had a disease or an illness, pointing you into a completely different direction than what you thought you were going. And that's okay too. So what's really important is that you have all of your abilities open so that you can receive these messages. And to be able to do that, you actually have to have your chakras open. So what I want you to do is we're going to do an activity with a meditation. So I want you to close your eyes. And with this activity, I want you to visualize in your mind the different colors, and I'll walk you through it. Now, with the chakra system, you actually have a God chakra that is above your head so that you can connect to the divine or God. And that is kind of this white golden ray, this light that comes in. Now, in order for your crown chakra, which is on the top of your head, like the soft spot that babies have, for that to open, some people will visualize a lotus opening up. Now, for me, when I was working with clients in the healing business, sometimes the lotus wasn't strong enough to open, and I would have to ask for the patient's or client's help to open it, and I would just think of it as a trap door. And as long as I thought of it as a trap door, it just popped open, and they were able to feel and listen and open themselves up to the divine. Now, a lot of people with migraines will have that crown chakra closed, and there'll be this building up of energy until you actually open it. And so it's a good idea to have those open. So visualize with your crown, this is kind of a lighter purple on the crown, and just visualize that crown chakra opening so that you can receive those claircognizant, which is a pure message coming through the top of your head. Okay? Now, when you come down to your brow to the third eye chakra, that's actually an indigo color. And that's where your clairvoyance is really important to have that open. So just visualize either a lotus flower opening or visualize a trap door of this beautiful indigo. And that's kind of a purplish violet color. It's kind of vibrant. Okay? So now, as you got that open now, I want you to go down to your throat, and I want you to visualize this trap door being blue. Beautiful blue, kind of like an ocean blue. And that's so that you have clear speaking. You want to be able to have all your chakras nice and open, because if they're closed, like I said, you're not going to have this energy coming in, and that's when diseases set in. Like for the throat would be like thyroid issues. So now that you've got that nice and open, I want you to go down to your heart chakra, which is right in between your breasts. And I want you to open that up. And it can be either like a green or a pink color. And this, can make you have problems if it's closed with your breasts or your lungs or your heart. So it's really important to have that open. And within your heart is actually the DNA of God. And so a lot of your messages will be coming from God. You want to have that heart chakra nice and wide open, okay? All right, so we're going to come all the way down right below our ribs, like it's over the stomach area, and that is the solar plexus, and that's your willpower. So whatever it is you want to do in life, you've got to have the willpower to do it, right? So let's imagine this beautiful yellow chakra, okay? And open that trap door and let that beautiful yellow color open that up, okay? And when you have that closed, a lot of times you'll be having issues with either your liver, your stomach, your pancreas, spleen. It can be all of those. And sometimes we're afraid to step into whatever we're supposed to be doing, and we shut that down. So it's important for it to be open. Okay, so now we're going to go down to our sacral, which is right at our lower abdomen. And of course, that's over a lot of the female sexual organs. And so you want to have that nice and open. And what I find when I was working with people is if they've had problems in love, whether it was divorce or abuse or something like this, they would actually shut that sacral or chakra as well as their heart chakra. They would do that like they were protecting themselves, and all it really caused was more problems, right? So you want to have that wide open. The color is orange. So visualize that orange opening up, okay? All right, now we're going to go down to the base of our spine now, and we're going to visualize the color red, and this is our root chakra, and this is where we actually manifest with the root chakra. So it's really important to be open in all of your chakras, not only concentrating in the upper chakras, because that will make you off balanced, and you won't be nearly as successful if you stay in only your upper chakras. So now that we've got your root chakra open, we want to have it nice and open so that that energy can run down both of our legs, right? And we want that energy to run down into our feet, because we've got chakras on the bottom of our feet. And that is where we're going to connect to Mother Earth, right? Because there's chakras that connect us right when our feet are on the earth and we're connecting to Mother Earth, then we're pulling up Mother Earth's energy, right? And we need that. We need that to balance our bodies. So whenever we're feeling kind of out of sorts, we need to be able to connect all of that. So now what I want you to do is we're going to connect all of it. We're going to connect that energy. We're going to pull up that Mother Earth green and that root chakra. We're going to come up all the way up to our orange chakra, our sacral chakra, all the way up to our solar plexus chakra. We're going to go all the way up to our heart chakra, to our throat chakra, to our brow, to our third eye chakra, all the way up to our crown chakra. And we're going to go all the way up to that beautiful God chakra, the white and gold. Okay, and then you'll see it kind of just spill out and flow over your body. Okay, and you can have this beautiful energy going all the time as long as it's nice and open. Now, sometimes when you're open constantly, it may be too much energy coming in at once. And if that's so, then you can surround yourself with a white light, and it kind of quiets your world, because people that are overly sensitive pick up everything. And sometimes that's very uncomfortable. You're picking up people's emotions, picking up anger, you're picking up happiness, you're picking up frustration, you're just picking up too much. And we'll have a class on Clairaudient on when you're actually feeling all of that. But right now, we're going to be talking about the difference between secret and sacred. These teachings were actually considered sacred and secret. For many, many years, the information would only be given to like the kings and queens, and they didn't allow this information to go out. And even in Hawaii, only the kahunas had it, and only the kings would have it, and they felt like this knowledge was power. And now's the time that everyone steps into their own power. It's no longer the path that we should always be going to gurus or psychics to be giving us all this information. We need to step up and step into our own power. And so one of the things that I noticed in my life was that when I was given information, sometimes I didn't know what to do with it, and I didn't know why I was given the information if I couldn't do anything about it. And yet it took me time over the years to trust in God and the divine source, that my higher self knew what it was doing, and that I just needed to be guided. I know in my 20s that I had an experience where I was sitting in church, And I kept receiving the information that I needed to go home. And that was all the information I was receiving, was just go home, go home. And here I had these two babies, and they were wiggly, and I was just trying to make it through the meeting. And yet I kept hearing, go home, go home. And usually you were given messages about 3 times, and then it stops. And so I knew that I needed to go, and so I picked up these babies, went home, and I called my sister-in-law and told her, I just had to come home. And she says, oh my gosh, thank goodness. She says, I am miscarrying my baby. And so I said, okay, I'm on my way over. And we went to the hospital with her husband, and I was able to be there for them. It's so important that we listen, that we pay attention to our higher self or our soul, however you want to say it, because they know what's best for us. And sometimes the messages are a warning. Sometimes it's just a reassurance that everything's going to be okay, no matter what's coming. And sometimes it's guidance. So it's just up to us to pay attention and to trust. Okay? So what I want you to do with this information is I want you to decide how you're going to be able to use it. I want you to practice with it on a daily basis, because if you don't practice it, it's not going to develop. I remember talking in the car a lot because you've got lots of time in the car, right? And so one time I was talking to Archangel Michael, and I've got a very good relationship with him. And so I was just talking to him as I was traveling over the 5th Street Bridge in Colorado, and I just was really missing him, and said, I just wish that I remembered him. And it does, it chokes me up. And all of a sudden I received this feeling, this essence of who he really was. And I couldn't believe that I had forgotten. I could not believe that I had forgotten. It was like I was receiving his personality. I was receiving this feeling of who he truly was. And it was such a gift. And so it's important to be able to listen and to be able to be guided on your journey, because that's how you're going to know if you're headed in the right direction, right? So always pay attention to your path. When I meditate, I don't always just calm my system down, go into a lotus position, which I can barely do anymore. But what I usually do is I just lay down and I just almost feel my body float. But what I really like to do is I like to pray and ask a question. Because if I pray and ask a question and then let my body float, then the answers come in more easily, okay? But when you're connecting like that, you do almost feel like you're floating in water. You almost can't even feel your body. You become so connected. So I want you to start paying attention to your dreams. I want you to pay attention to your thoughts that come into your mind. I want you to pay attention to your surroundings. This trip, my intention was to have a spiritual experience, right? So I set it up so that I wanted to be able to help the deceased that were here on the island move on. And I kept thinking, okay, where am I going to go that's going to have the most benefit? I just kept thinking and thinking, and nothing was coming up. It just wasn't coming forward. And this is when I was flying on the plane coming here. And I had my Nook, my reader in front of me, and I kept trying to get this book pulled up that I had been reading because the flight was long. But what kept coming up over and over again was the book American Sniper. And the gentleman who was the main character in American Sniper, his name's Chris Kyle. And we'll have a long discussion about him in Clairvoyance. And because that's when I gained a relationship with him. So when this book, American Sniper, kept coming up, and I kept trying to get this book to come up that I was reading, it finally dawned on me that Chris was trying to come through. And so I tuned in and said, okay, Chris, where are we going? What do you need help with? Whom do you need help with? Because Chris helps, and his soldiers help with those earthbound spirits to help them to go into the light. And I work with Chris, and I work with Archangel Michael to help open up portals in this third dimension to help them move on. It wasn't a path that I thought I was going to take, but it was a path that I was led to. And so he said, you need to go to Pearl Harbor. And I thought, well, duh, of course I need to go to Pearl Harbor. Why didn't I think of that? And so eventually we did go to Pearl Harbor, and I had been there before, and I knew the amount of energy that was there, and it's of grief. It's a lot of grief. And I didn't think I could handle it, because as a clairsentient, you know, you're picking up all of those emotions. And so I decided what I would do is I would go into the parking lot, and I would just be by myself where there's not a lot of people near me, and I would call in Archangel Michael, and I called in Chris Kyle, and I told him that what I wanted to do, and I closed my eyes, and I helped open this portal, and there were streams of people flowing, I could see, going to the light. Just streams. It was crazy. I'd never seen so many people. Usually when I see it, and I'm working with spirit, it will maybe one individual, or it may be a line of individuals that are going to the light. But this was streams of people going to the light. And they were happy. They were very happy. And so I just asked Archangel Michael and Chris to continue doing this and to keep it open for as long as it needed to be opened. And that's what they did. And I had so many wonderful experiences here. Some were good and some were not good. There were a few where I went into shops where it felt heavy and I didn't feel good. I felt sick and I knew I needed to leave. And immediately when I left, I felt light and good again. And so you need to trust what's coming through. Now, the next thing that happened here on the island was I went to the museum, and one of the readings was from the kahunas. And what they said is you need to share the knowledge. And as soon as I read that, I knew it was so important what I have started, that I needed to share what I have been working on for over 20 years. And so that's what I've been doing. And in the same museum, a book actually was on the shelf that, I'm going to struggle with this name, is Kapaemahu. I know I didn't say that right. But anyway, this is actually by Kokila, Kokila. But in this book was so fascinating to me that I'm sharing it with you because it was a part of this journey. It really was. Because the legend goes that 4 individuals, strangers, came onto Kauai, and they brought in these healing abilities, these spiritual healing abilities. And the individuals, I have to again go to my notes because I cannot pronounce these names. The individual Kapuni possessed spiritual powers and shared them with the villagers. And the Kahaloa, he was able to heal from afar. And Kapaemahu had laying on of hands, healing ability. And Kinohi was all-seeing. So what he could do, or she, they were actually a balance of he and she. They were balanced in their female and male abilities. But what this individual could do is their seeing allowed them to see inside the body to see where it needed to be healed. So they brought these wonderful gifts to the villagers and showed them how to do it and help their bodies heal. And so it was a beautiful story. It really was, this legend of the Kapaemahu. And it was important for me to share it with you so that if this is your path, it is a spiritual path, but you can open up to all of your clairs and be able to have your own journey guided and know that it is where you need to be. I tapped into the kahunas and I wanted to know what message they wanted me to share because my hearing's very good. And it was a very simple message. And it was the first time I had listened to them. And the message was this. The message is for you to connect to God or your divine source and to live a life of love. That was it. That is your message. So I hope that we all take it seriously and live a life of love. And I thank you for joining me today. And I'll see you next time.